Tonight, Alien Earth premiered its first 2 episodes. These are the first 2 hours of television ever spawned by the Alien franchise. Us three just watched those 2 episodes for the first time, so you're about to hear our raw, unfiltered, but spoiler-filled reactions to those 2 episodes. Who is us? Well, I'm Gil, the face and voice and creator. I basically run the whole thing on one take. Daniel helps out from time to time. That's my brother, Daniel. Say hello.
Hey, what's up? I'm Daniel.
And this is a collaboration, a bigger collaboration than the one debuting on August 18th between Oreo and Reese's. They finally are doing it. And so I want to introduce the Oreo to my Reese's. Tony from Hack the Movies.
Hello, I'm just learning about this Oreo Reese's thing. Don't give me that information. I shouldn't be eating any of that.
I shouldn't have said that. You're going to be distracted the whole stream now. Just listen, what'd you think of tonight's episode? It was like a bunch of Oreos in my mouth. It's going to be like anytime they zoom in on the xenomorph's mouth and water just like starts flowing out of it.
Oreo Reese's in it.
Ugh. All right, so we're going to start with the biggest question of all. I've been very hyped for this show. I think Daniel, about 2 hours ago, just learned this show exists. He's like, Alien, I thought that was a movie. Tony, I know you've been hyped. So yeah. I want to start with you. I feel like of all three of us, you are probably the most immersed in the Alien franchise.
What gives you that impression? What,
yeah, I know.
Is there anything like on screen that will give you that impression, Gil?
Not as much as was on screen about 3 hours ago when we did our camera test. And you're like, what if I only take up about 10% of the screen and the rest of it is all Alien memorabilia? Hey, if I lived in a video rental store, I would want to show it off as much as possible too. But tell me, did the show suck? Or was it awesome?
I am actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this. I really, really like this, and I am someone who loves the Alien franchise very, very much, and I'm also known for hating most of the things in the franchise. Famously, we did an Alien Covenant review together. I hated Prometheus. I don't enjoy Alien vs. Predator, and Alien Romulus was like an okay highlight reel, a greatest hits album of the previous movie. So like it's been a long time since I was excited for anything Alien, and it's been an even longer time since I was impressed by something Alien. And tonight was the night. Tonight was the first night where I'm like, wow, I actually really, I'm not settling because it's better than another bad thing. I actually really like this. So I'm in a really good mood, guys.
That's awesome. It's this weird feeling of like, what am I feeling right now? Like this is, do I not hate this? Yeah. Daniel, you want to chill the mood? What did you think?
Okay, so when the text came on the screen, I got super excited. Right, talking about humanity's quest for immortality and the 3 types of people. I thought that was super cool. But then I noticed that the text was just weird. Like, it was a weird font. It was a little hard to read with, like, the coloring and the lighting. And then there was just I have your voice in my head the whole time, Gil, that I was watching it, of you criticizing my criticisms of it. But anyway, the text, I just noticed, I'm like, this font does not feel professional. Like, I had our brother Lund's voice in my head. I'm like, this is not a good font to have in a show.
It's the old green font.
It's just the font. It's just what
I don't know. It was just a lot of it. And anyway, and like the pacing of the text appearing just didn't do it for me. And
then the text.
Oh my! I told you earlier today. Well, it sounds like you're in the middle of a bit. I'll let you finish.
It's not a bit. You can interrupt. I'll continue.
I told you earlier today. We're not recapping chronologically through the whole episode. We stick to the highlights. People will be on a high. They just finished watching. We got to go to the highlights, and you're like, but you've spent 3 minutes on the typeface.
Well, I have to say, and then the way the DreamWorks logo appeared, I thought was not
a reference that no one will get to a podcast we did last year, a defunct podcast from last year.
Okay, so anyway, I was excited about the content of the text, but the font concerned me and the pacing.
All right,
and then there was just wait, I'm almost done. There was just a lot of text. There was a lot of text at the beginning. Anyway, but I was excited about the content, but literally in the very first scene, I was just like, oh no, this just isn't good. I like a lot of what happened in the show, but I felt from the beginning the acting and everything just felt like massively like on a budget to me. It just did not seem good. There are a few characters that I think were good, and I think they make everybody else look much worse. Like I just cannot stand the boy genius guy. He could be a good character. He feels like somebody doing an impersonation of somebody doing an impersonation of like a good villain. And it kind of ruined it for me. It just felt very, like, I'm excited. Like, I like the story. I'm excited to see where it goes. I like the world, but there were just a lot of things that were just cringy to me. Like, at the beginning where they're, like, doing the world building of explaining to the kid who didn't go to social studies, like, who runs the world. And I was just like, this is not remotely near a real conversation. All right, end of rant.
I actually don't disagree with all of that, but I feel like that villain character so far he's one of many aspects on the show. And I agree to some extent that there's one character I find very interesting, the Wendy character. She's probably, to me, at the moment, the anchor of the show. Other characters, I didn't think it was bad acting or anything like that. I just didn't find any of them as intriguing as her. But when we were with characters I don't yet care about all that much, there was enough there that I was intrigued for other reasons. Like they're wandering around a spaceship that has creatures other than xenomorphs, and I'm excited to discover what they are. So, Tony, I'm with you on this one. I quite enjoyed this show. Though, Daniel, I think we'll probably share some criticisms. I also think you need to watch these episodes again when you aren't ill. And your brain is like at full capacity.
I may have had to stand up a few times to make sure I didn't fall asleep. So it's a little unfair.
You also had a stressful day from what I understand. So I think you got to watch them. Mate, why don't you sign off, go watch them again, and log back on at the end of the stream.
You're going to watch it again, and you're going to be like, why did I care about the font so much? I don't care.
Go ahead, Tony.
I'm enjoying the acting so far. I was actually real excited in the first scene with the ship and the crew. That old British guy that they were talking to, he was Tyres from Spaced. If you ever seen Edgar Wright's Spaced, he was the bike messenger who was always on drugs and kept hearing music and would just dance randomly.
I love that
he showed
guy.
up. Yeah, he showed up, and I'm just like, is that, like, God, he's old as hell now, but I'm like, holy shit, that's Tyres. And meanwhile, I'm like, is he going to be, like, the star of the show? And I'm pretty sure he dies off screen. I'm interested in the captain of the ship, the cyborg. I want to know the difference between the cyborg and then the putting your brain in synthetic. I don't know what the difference between that is.
Well, I guess a cyborg is still a biological human with some robotic parts implanted versus the hybrid. They've actually downloaded a human consciousness into a fully robotic body.
And you can see the cyborg was doing stuff like he needed an oxygen mask, right? Like he still has all these biological needs.
Yeah. But yeah, you were talking about the boy genius, which I kept hating that they were calling him that. I feel like every tech guy in movies the last, like, I don't know, like, 15 years has either been Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. This one, they're going for Mark Zuckerberg. He's even, like, dressed like him and shit. I'm like, all right, I think we're, like, oh, like, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't even look like that anymore. I thought we were past this.
Yeah, they implanted his brain into a synthetic that looks a lot more human now.
But don't worry, he was able to show the entire Disney catalog, because Fox now is owned by Disney, so he's able to play Disney movies without having to license it. I thought that was fun. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. The Alien franchise really has been shifting focus to like the androids for whatever reason. I don't know why. So this is like a cool new element. They're like, hey, we have all these synthetics. Why don't we put a human brain in them? And I'm assuming it's going to go horribly wrong because that's not a thing in the later movies. So
yeah, it is funny, like the continuity of all this. Like if they're going to be rigid with the continuity, this all kind of needs to be packed up in a neat bow by the end of the series where there's a big cover up. Nobody knows about any of this. And it's all going to have to disappear. I honestly am thankful that Noah Hawley, who runs the show, has been pretty cavalier with the canon. He's like, I'm inspired by that original movie. He doesn't even know when the show takes place because they say 2120, 2 years before Alien. And then like a month ago, he's like, I think we take place around the same time as Aliens because we kind of reference stuff that happened in the first movie. And I'm like, the trailer says it happens 2 years before the first movie. But in some sense, I'm actually, even though I'm the timeline guy and I need everything to be chronological, I actually kind of like the fact that he isn't feeling beholden to continuity and he just wants to make a great show.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you mentioned how the franchise has become more and more interested in the kind of robotic side of it. I feel like part of that is because if you want to take this seriously as science fiction and ask interesting philosophical questions, that's so much easier on the robot side of things. And especially if you want it to feel relevant to today, that's where you get to play with questions like AI, what makes us human. And actually, I was finding myself, especially in the first episode, much more invested in that storyline because I do find it more interesting. Plus, you have the Wendy character. And one thing I heard Holly talk about is if you're going to do horror, you want to create sort of drama, especially in a TV series. You can't just do nonstop horror. The pacing wouldn't work. So you want to create drama, characters, and then when the horror comes, it can land with a lot more impact. But here, I was almost worried that when the xenomorph shows up, it's going to interrupt the storyline that I'm getting pretty invested in.
By the way, thank God it shows up pretty quick. I was wondering, I'm like, is this going to be one of those like 5 episodes in, we'll finally get a chest burster, and then 10 episodes after that, we'll get an alien. I'm like, oh, no, there it is. It's just there in its full glory. I actually think it looked a little bit better than the Romulus alien. It's clearly like a guy in a suit. Romulus had that animatronic, and I liked that it was an animatronic, but it was really stiff for me. This alien's like fluid, and it moves really, really well. It's a little too dry sometimes. It does look like a guy in a suit at some point. But I was glad that we just saw it right away. It's like, look, the alien exists. You'll see him again. Now let's get to the story. I'm like, good. I'm on board with this.
There was one time where the xenomorph like jumps from the balcony like towards him, like at that fancy party, and it really just feels like a guy in a suit like jumping over. And it's like there's something like you see him too clearly. Like I feel like the alien is a thing you're supposed to see in the shadows, but it's just like right there, like in the spotlight.
Yeah, there was specifically a part where he's like banging on the wall, and I'm like, that's just a guy doing this.
I mean, that is a problem. If you want, like, you want to see it if it's like an action scene. You don't want to see it if it's a horror scene. So it's kind of like you have to pick and choose the lighting. The problem with the first Alien vs. Predator is that they lit it too brightly, so it did just look like guys in rubber suits, and then they overcompensated in the next film, and you can't see a goddamn thing in it. But no, I think it was fine. I mean, I've seen the Alien look worse. This is one of the better. When it's running, it looks great. Unlike Alien 3's Rod Puppet, I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I think it's not bad. I was especially disappointed in it just because I was like binging Noah Hawley interviews today. Yeah. And one thing he talked about is how the xenomorph is going to be faithful to the old designs, but I made some changes because I really don't want it to just look human, like a guy in a suit. I made it more like insect-like. So that's what I was watching out for. And so if you're hyper fixated on, does it look like a guy in a suit? The answer is inevitably, yes, it does. If I didn't have that in mind, though, I think it probably just would have gone right by me, and I would have said, yeah, it looks like the xenomorph. It looks good.
Gil, I was disappointed. The tendrils on the back are too small. That was a design flaw, and I think they need to redo the show. I will be very, very upset. No, I'm kidding.
That's why we have you here. Didn't you complain something about Godzilla where you're like, where he didn't have those on his back in the last movie? Something like that.
Yeah, something like yeah. Between movies,
same thing with Godzilla. It's too dark. I can hardly see a thing.
No, he came out recently. Sorry, not a side tangent. He was interviewed recently, and he's like, I'm really sorry for that first Blu-ray. That wasn't what it looked like when I approved it. It's not supposed to look like that. But yeah, back to Alien.
Yeah.
So Gil,
go ahead, yeah.
I agree with you, though, of like, I think unsurprisingly, I'm much more excited about the synth storyline and what happens to these kids when you put them in these, robot bodies. And I was really disappointed that the second episode still ended in the crash site. I'm just like, so we're still like 2 episodes now. We're just exploring this crash site. Like, is this going to be like it just feels like to me, it's the boring, like we're running around. There's aliens around. We're trying to figure out what's happening. Like, I don't feel there's that much interesting stuff to explore there. Like, I feel like I was more excited to do some of the world building stuff and explore like these kids.
Yeah,
like what's happening to them.
Yeah, I think in the first episode, I was wondering, how are we going to combine these 2 stories? And it's obvious from the start, logistically, how they're going to combine, because we find out Wendy has a brother, Joe, who is a medic. So he's going to be with the team that's investigating the crash site, and she wants to go save him. So that's how they're going to combine. But thematically, it's not totally clear right away how exploring xenomorphs is going to interact with exploring the nature of being human and putting your brain in a robot body. I think you get a little bit of an idea at the end of episode 1 when it felt a little apropos of nothing. It just cuts to Timothy Oliphant and he's like, "You used to be food, you know." Like, what?
Yeah, I came out of nowhere.
What did you just say? We were just sitting here, and what prompted this all of a sudden? And he's like, your lives were short, filled with fear. Then you built impossible machines. You went to space. You stopped being food, or at least you told yourself that. But there's always a bigger animal. It's going to eat you alive. So, they're setting up this thing of there are other creatures out there, like the xenomorph, the perfect killer. And maybe to survive them, we have to become more than human, the way Wendy did and moved into a robot body. So you can start to see this almost arms race to become a more powerful creature. At what point do we lose our humanity? And then at that point, well, was it worth surviving if we essentially went extinct as a species and transcended our humanity?
I'm glad you brought that up because, the Prometheus and Covenant outright said this, but the whole, or the mystery of the alien was, was it created by something? Because it is biomechanical. So are us putting our brains in the androids, is this going to lead to a future where we create something like the alien? Is the alien like a warning, hey, don't do this. It goes horribly wrong. But it is kind of tying into Romulus a little bit. We now know that people are trying, because Romulus was all about, let's use the alien to make ourselves immortal, whereas before it was always supposed to be a weapon. And this is continuing that trend where it's we're looking for ways to become immortal by finding alien species and seeing how we can make humans better. Maybe the synthetic, putting our brains in synthetics doesn't work out, so this is plan B, is mixing with aliens or something.
And prediction, the kid who wants to be a scientist, he's going to merge with one of these aliens at some point. He's going to turn himself into an alien. You could see how they've really focused on this fact that all he cares about is knowledge or intelligence or whatever, and then he was very mesmerized.
Just so smart.
And so he's definitely, you could easily see a scenario where he can sympathize with, his name is actually Boy something, I forget. Oh, Boy Cavalier, the head of Prodigy. Yeah. And it's interesting. So it seems like ostensibly Prodigy is trying to achieve immortality, find a way for humans to survive beyond a normal biological lifespan. But in episode 2, we learn more about Boy Cavalier's true motivation, which, Daniel, you were saying he kind of is cartoony. I feel like there's anime inspiration there. The way the villain walks in, eating an apple, it reminds me of L from Death Note, where he's got to have these little quirks. Yeah, it's laying on his back and holding the iPad with his feet.
That was grosser than any alien thing that happened. I was like, ah!
Yeah, I was like, some of this eye stuff is going to freak Tony out. And I was like, no, this foot stuff is what's going to do him in. I will say, okay, I think the show, I was hoping the show would be above this. So when I first heard the premise that it's 4 corporations that control the Earth, and now it's an arms race to see who's going to control the universe, because which of these 3 forms of robotics is going to win out. I am all for Rage Against the Machine. Rich people suck. But it does feel like a childish view of the world where every rich person we meet is a cartoonish idiot. The party scene, I hated that scene. I loved aspects of that scene.
Oh, no,
but of course, the rich people are like, what is this racket? Oh, there's a spaceship that crashed into the building. Shut up. But going back to Boy, okay, he's a bit cartoonish. Hopefully they can flesh him out more. But I at least found his motivation pretty interesting, where he's like, I'm the smartest man alive. I want someone smarter than me. And that's why he's trying to create robotics that can get beyond him. Okay, go ahead, Daniel.
The issue is that we don't see that intelligence in any way. I get he invented this cool technology. It's really cool. Looking at him, it's shocking he was able to accomplish any of these things. Because, okay, this ship crashes and he wants the stuff in it. Let me not do anything that, actually helps secure this scene. Let me just make it chaos. Let's send in the kids. He doesn't... we don't see him do anything remotely intelligent. And by the way, his dialogue, the way he talks isn't even very smart. Yeah. He sounds like an idiot. So,
yeah, it is funny because when they were bumbling around in the ship, and they're like getting way too close to aliens. I'm like, you know what? You can justify it because they're robots and they're children, so they're stupid.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait, why are there stupid robot children doing this? Why didn't he send like synthetics that will follow his orders and aren't children?
One thing I like about the whole company stuff, we've always seen Wayland Yutani, and like all the previous prequels were very Wayland focused. This is the first time we're actually getting like the Yutani side of things.
Oh, really? Alien
Yeah,
vs.
the only
Predator
time-
2, right?
Alien vs. Predator Requiem with that lady at the end, that's like the only hint we ever got. But yeah, so now we see like there is a new Miss Yutani. I assume it's not the one from that other movie. So yeah, we never really got to see that side of the company before. I mean, it was always just this random company, but when they did start doing prequel stuff, very Wayland focused. So I'm excited to see what the Yutani side of that is. How do they fit into the company? And also, if the companies are taking over, they left one big company out, Gil. I'm surprised you don't know this. They left out Walmart. And according to the deleted scene in Alien Resurrection, Walmart bought out Wayland Yutani and is responsible for them going away. So at some point,
That's
Walmart's
right,
going to
yeah.
come in, and it's going to win all these company
I got to
wars.
add that to my timeline. Actually, you do remind me of something else.
Yeah.
I think I would call this a nitpick, but sci-fi often does this when it projects 100 years into the future.
Yeah.
But for some reason, all pop cultural references are to things that we know about today. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
in the 100 years since, they haven't made 15 more Ice Age movies. You're still watching Continental Drift from 2012. No,
Yeah.
the Peter Pan stuff, I'm like, that is a universal story that stand the test of time. Actually, didn't stand the test of time. It got that great updated new version. What was that called? Pan or Wendy or whatever?
Peter and Wendy or whatever?
Yeah, Peter and Wendy, far superior. They should have been watching that. Actually, that is not a nitpick. That's
With starring Mila Jovovich's daughter, whose father directed Alien vs. Predator. It all comes back. It all comes back to that.
wow. And I don't know if you noticed this, Tony, but Wendy kind of looks like Amelia, and that movie was directed by the guy. who
Emily.
made,
Emily. I think it's Emily. I
should've let
texted
say
you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main girl's horrible hair. By the way, some of the worst hair I've ever seen in a show. They gave everyone the most obnoxious haircuts, so by the time the French aristocrats showed up in powder wigs, you're like, it's actually not that far off from everyone else's haircut. But yeah, she looks exactly like Amelie, who was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who did Alien Resurrection. I'm like, is that like a weird reference to him? I don't even think he cares about that movie. He makes fun of it all the time.
Well, let's. One question I have. Okay, the episode 2 ended with Joe getting snatched by a xenomorph, and for the second time, Wendy doing something badass and like meh, cool music kicks in. End of the first episode was her spitting in Timothy Oliphant's face. I'm going to save my brother. I am the food. Screw your stupid food chain theory. And then the end of the second episode, it's her jumping after her brother, which I think is tying into a theme they set up in the second episode with the whole Mr. October thing, where it's like, Shona, you know sports more than I do. Explain this to me.
Well, it's funny. So I've met Reggie Jackson. My dad used to go to baseball card collecting conventions and would drag all of us. So I got to see Reggie Jackson. My little sister at the time was playing with his daughter. Yeah, he was Mr. October. He was in like a very famous World Series. So I'm not a big baseball guy, but I was very excited to see Reggie Jackson at that convention because he was also in The Naked Gun, which I will be talking about tomorrow. That's right, I'm talking about Reggie Jackson back to back 2 nights in a row.
No plugs. Save plugs for the end.
But yeah, no, he is a very famous baseball player, and I had to text not my brother-in-law, Prison Mike. There is a Philadelphia Phillies jacket in there, and I'm like, hey, buddy, the Phillies exist in the Alien universe.
It's, again, nothing significant has happened in baseball since 1977 in this world. Like another 100 years have gone by.
You're right. They have to do the Star Trek thing where they reference 2 historical things and then they throw in a dumb, goofy name. Like, what is it? Is it Star Trek 2 where they're like, Einstein, Newton, and then they go like Gleebelgork or whatever. It's just like a made up name that hasn't happened yet.
It's probably tough to do without sounding really cheesy, you know. But...
Yeah, they can figure out a way to do it. Can I say one thing I really like? Something I wasn't expecting to really like about the series.
Please.
My issue with
Can I guess? Wait, the typeface. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, that green text, that green typeface, which is from the original movie. God damn you, Dan. That's what computers looked like in the 70s. They couldn't make fancy looking typeface in 1979. That's the best they could do, and now we all have to look like that. Anyway, since Alien 3, I've always been like, wait, why didn't they do more with the aliens going on other creature thing? And they're always coming out of humans and looking like aliens. So for years, because as someone who grew up with the toy line where there's like gorilla alien and stuff, I'm like, why don't they do that? I'm getting tired of seeing the same looking aliens. This show did something completely different. They're like, hey, what if there were just different aliens out there in the universe? I'm like, how come no one ever thought to do that before? I mean, if you read the comics, there are other types of aliens, but they're not like hostile aliens. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that there's, what is it, like 6 new species in this? It's like the traditional alien. There's these leeches that like suck your blood and blow up. The plant thing, which Timothy Oliphant's just staring at. He's like, I don't even know if this is a plant.
It presents as, what is it, Daniel?
Flora. It might be fauna.
But it might be fauna.
And then we also get one of my favorite new ones, the eyeball squid, which can go into a dead body and pilot it like Ratatouille and make zombie stuff. It makes a zombie cat, and that thing was freaking me out. So I like this idea. I'm like, oh yeah, does it always? I mean, you need the xenomorph in there because it's become so iconic. But I'm like, yeah, I guess you could just from time to time have a different alien in there. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm so curious, like, about their disposition toward aliens. At what point in the timeline did they first come into contact with aliens? Because in all of these movies, they're always so cavalier about it. Where it's like, yeah, we found an alien species. Like, they're freaked out because the specifics of this is a vicious alien. But not like, oh my God, we're not alone in the universe. Like, even if you go back to Prometheus, you know what? Let's not go back to Prometheus. I don't want to bring the mood down.
Well, no. They first got contact with aliens when that girl survived her trip from Antarctica back to the boat and said, hey, Wayland was killed by a predator. Also, there's predators. They're fighting aliens. Oh, let me tell you what aliens are. That's when they learned, Gil.
Okay, first off, there's the Predator franchise, the Alien versus Predator franchise, and then the Alien franchise. All right, stop straying into other franchises. You're confusing Daniel. So going back to Mr. October, I think that's going to be. I think you're going to like this theme, Daniel. Mr. October, when he's in the clutch, when the team most needs it, and there's a lot of pressure, he gets the home run. Wendy's trying to be that person. Twice now, she's kind of spat in the face of logic and said, I'm going to go save somebody. And so I think that's kind of what they're setting her up to be. She's going to be that little spark of optimism in this horrible world. Will it go well? I don't know. We'll find out. But I thought that was interesting. But what's going on with her where she keeps being like, do you hear that? Every time the alien's nearby, it keeps focusing on that. What's the deal?
No. I don't think it's the alien going nearby. So they are learning. So she's like an AI, and they... Because the boy genius mentions, like, everyone's afraid of AI because we're going to make this thing, and then it might make its own machine. So she's developing abilities. Like, you saw she was able to, like, remote hack into their system. So he's looking through her eyes, and I think when he's, like, looking around in her head, that's when... Because whenever we hear the sound, it cuts to him looking at the monitor. So I think that's, like, when it's sending a signal specifically to him.
Dang, that's why you're on this show. My mind was going to crazy places. I started to think, wait a minute, xenomorphs, we've seen them have a hive mind before. Are they communicating on some frequency that maybe she's picking up on because she's part biological brain, part synthetic? I think it probably is technically all synthetic, even though it came from biological origin. But
I was going to say, I'm glad you said that. As someone who's read a lot of the Alien comics, they get into a lot of that stuff. And there is one, I think maybe it's Labyrinth, where there is a scientist who has a bunch of aliens, and he's figured out, like, what they do psychically, and he knows how to calm himself down and get to a state where they, like, don't want to attack it. Like, he goes into the hive, and they just leave him alone.
Well, we see a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
Because the cyborg says how they can sense when you're afraid.
Yeah.
And then he sort of just stands there. The xenomorph like inspects him and then just takes out all the guys behind him.
I have to say though, he looked very afraid in that moment.
But he probably has a cyborg thing where he could like shut that down.
I
know,
also
it's-
think they need organic matter to reproduce, and I think that's why they don't really mess with synthetics or cyborgs. It might be turned off by that. So maybe that's why it left them alone. It's just like, I can't really do.
You know, I think you're probably right about that. But
Yeah.
you just reminded me, why didn't the xenomorph kill Joe? Because it clearly could have with how quickly it takes people out. But when it goes after Joe, it'll pick him up, toss him around the room, and then the episode ends with him tackling him off a cliff. Is it just
Plot
because he needs an...
convenience.
Well, yeah, that was my concern, is that it felt very plot armory, especially when that scene we were just talking about where he inspects the cyborg, then kills all the guys behind him. He does that in a split second.
Oh! No, I think I got it. So remember, the aliens don't really want to kill too many people. They want to cocoon them to make more aliens. I think it figured he probably wasn't big enough of a threat, so it could cocoon him. Everyone
But all
else,
those guys dressed up as like Englishmen were a threat. That's see, your mind went to the same place.
Oh,
you did,
yeah.
right? He wants an incubator, basically. But why Joe? Is it just convenience, or is there something more to that? That's the kind of thing we might catch on a rewatch.
Joe was in the nest, so maybe he thought it was easier there. I know it took out the guards because they all have guns, so that makes sense. But yeah, you're right. The party, that was just fucking cool. I just liked him taking out the party. That was awesome.
Well, that's where I went from like, this is kind of dumb to like, this is pretty awesome. And it got very gory. And you see the guy crawling just the upper half of his body. He's like, so much noise, so much noise. And then it cuts to what it looks like a painting from the 1800s with like a dinner party, except they're all torn apart by a xenomorph. It was, that was a cool, in the end, it was a cool scene.
Can I say there were 2 moments in the show where I audibly went, ah! One of my favorite things in the original Alien.
The typeface. Sorry, keep going.
So yeah, the typeface. I went, who did that? No. So like some of the early Alien movies, the thing I like is when the alien blends in with everything and you don't know it's
How
there.
many times? I think they did it twice that I noticed.
Yeah. And they did it twice that I noticed, and both times it got me. The one time, like it's behind them, and you have no idea. Then it like peeks down. It's like, hey, what's going on? And then when it's on top of the statue, I was like, hey, that statue looked different. And then it moved. I went, oh god! They're like, wow, it's been a long time since an alien thing got me to feel that way. That's awesome.
One random thing that comes to mind, something I've been thinking about, is when a filmmaker just makes interesting choices, like with where they point the camera. And there were some cool, because you don't normally see it on TV. A lot of times with TV, there's like set angles. They have sets, and it's all about efficiency of getting through the episode. Yeah. But there was some really cool stuff. Like the first time you see all the kids getting their brains downloaded into the new bodies, there weren't any perceivable cuts. It kept kind of swooping down and then back up. You see another kid. Back down, back up, and you see another kid. And it just gives you this like surreal feeling, and it's a little disorienting. And I imagine that's what it feels like for them. So it's not just like a random cool choice. It's also something that's matching up to what the characters are feeling. And similarly, they kept doing this very nostalgic thing where it would like fade a memory over the character. I basically saw it happen to you, Tony, when you were talking about those baseball card things you used to go to. I saw your dad fading in over you in a dissolve. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but they do it for Wendy, and then they also do it for Joe. And anytime they're getting into the character's mind, I'm going to pay close attention, because you're drawing a comparison between someone who's fully human and someone who's questioning their humanity. But at least you see that aspect, that kind of nostalgia and remembering. They're both doing that. So that's where we're seeing a little bit of Wendy's humanity. Actually, speaking of which, another element of that I thought was really cool is when she's not feeling emotions as intensely. And it's like, oh, of course, because she's in a robot body, you don't have all those hormones. And that's an example of this show raising an interesting question that's applicable to the real world, which is how much of our mind and emotions and the things that make us human, the things you might attribute to your soul, a lot of that's chemically driven. And that's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, like what happens when you get rid of that? Oh, the science lady who's there with Timothy Olyphant, it was bothering me. I'm like, where do I know her from? She's the mom from the Babadook. That's S.E. Davies,
okay.
I think. I was looking at her. I'm like, I know that lady's face. I've seen that meme of her screaming 6 million times. But yeah, I like that she's like, should we up it? And they're like, she's not even human. It's like, she's right there. She has a human brain. Could you relax? But what you were saying, Daniel, about the acting, I think it's the adult actors are pretending to be kids in adult bodies, and it's weird.
I actually am able to overlook the adults being kids, although there is one scene where they're all acting like they're high. Do you remember that, where they're just hanging out when she goes to rally them to like go on a mission?
Well, I think that would be an example of. I think you're almost like poking a hole in the thing you just said, because I don't think they were being high. I think they were trying to act like kids in adult bodies.
I guess I was able to overlook it, except in that one scene where it just seemed like they were acting high instead of acting like kids, which just seemed like an odd choice.
It is
to me.
like it's hard to do that without it coming across as cheesy, but like I can't picture a better way to do it. Like adults acting like kids is just visually a cheesy thing to see. And so it's kind of like for that reason, I don't really hold it against them. Though I will say, I feel like the Wendy character does a great job of it. And I feel like the other characters, maybe their childish things are just louder. Like the characters, or like the scene where they're all kind of acting high. Like you don't really see Wendy do that. Like her childish things more come out in the dialogue. So maybe it comes across as less cheesy, but not necessarily more realistic. It's kind of is what it is.
Yeah. The other something that's gonna be interesting to see is with Wendy and with all the kids. It seems like Boy Genius can like look through her eyes, right? We have no idea the degree to which that they can be controlled, right? Like, it's funny. Like her brother really wanted to make sure that she was who she said she was, right? So she shares these stories, but like, you still don't know what she is. Like, she could eventually just be a weapon that this guy uses.
I have,
and maybe they could just torture her too, right? They could maybe just code her brain however they want.
Have either of you watched Ironheart?
Gil, we don't do MCU timelines where we're required to watch every MCU thing. In what fucking world did you think I was going to watch Ironheart willingly?
Well, maybe you should, because if you find this topic interesting, that show also has an artificial person who meets her brother, and then the brother is like, "Who are you?" and doesn't really know how to accept their sister who's been resurrected as an AI. The show didn't really explore that very much, but I'm excited that I feel like Alien Earth is going to pick up where Ironheart left off and explore it in the way I want.
It was explored perfectly in the most expensive Netflix movie ever made, The Electric State, where Millie Bobby Brown's brother was brought back as a robot mascot or whatever. I literally can't remember anything else that happened in that movie. Why was it so expensive? It was so bad and forgettable. So I guess it's just the thing we're doing now. We're bringing back siblings as robot AI. That's what we're doing.
All right, speaking of siblings.
This movie was $320 million?
Yes.
I didn't even hear about it. It has Chris Pratt.
That's one of the... Yeah, and the director's
Giancarlo Esposito. Jason Alexander.
Well,
yeah.
You sound like you're
Woody
making
Harrelson?
it up, but it's true.
Brian Cox?
I think the Russo brothers made like the highest... Jenny Slate, I think. Yeah, I think the Russo brothers made all the money in the world with Avengers, and Netflix was like, you can just do whatever. It doesn't even matter if people watch it. Just do whatever you want.
And now they're coming back to save the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Ironheart walked so Alien Earth can run, and we're seeing it.
Shut up. I do want to ask, so I'm not familiar with Noah Hawley. Is that his name?
I believe it's Hawley, but I don't know 100%.
Hawley, sure. I know he did do Legion, and he did do
Fargo.
The Fargo, which I didn't watch either of those. What should I expect? Is he gonna do is he gonna stick the landing? Is he gonna mess it up at the very end? Is he gonna make it too weird? Where you're like, why did I watch this?
So I didn't watch enough of either show. I watched the first season of Fargo. I liked it. I might have watched the second season, and I wanted to keep watching, but it was just one of those things where got busy, and then you're lost in the middle of the series. You forget where you left off.
Well, I thought they were all I thought Fargo was self-contained.
Yep. Yeah, they are. But I was like halfway through season 2 or something.
Gotcha.
Legion, I watched some of it. I remember liking it. It gets very weird. That show was trippy. I mean, it involves a character who has all kinds of mental powers, so things tend to go crazy. So I don't know if that answers your question. Things might get weird and crazy. Will he stick the landing? I have no idea. He has said he knows where he wants this all to go. He knows how he wants the series to end. So he's got a full story in mind. He doesn't know how many seasons it would take to tell that story, but at least he's not going in just without having thought all that stuff through.
Yeah.
He did say we'll meet at least one engineer before the end of the season. No spoilers.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
I made that up.
Okay.
I was about to say, I'm like, it better be big giant elephant skeleton. It better not be space Michael Myers.
I should say I hate spoilers, so you're not going to hear any spoilers on this show. You got that? I don't even know if they have a next time on preview. If there is one, I didn't watch it.
I missed the one for the second one to jump on here early. However, Dana, what you were saying about the us being in the ship for 2 episodes, I agree. It's like, well, I've kind of seen these environments before. I kind of liked when it went into the building, the apartment building. I'm like, okay, that's a new environment. I do know from the trailer that we will see like the alien in like a tropical like environment. There's a thing where it's like in a cave full of a lot of greenery. There's like water around. So I think next episode we're gonna get out of that ship finally, because I'll be disappointed if like the aliens are finally on Earth, except for those 2 other times, and we're on a ship that looks like every other movie. It's like, no, don't do that.
So I really hope. I mean, I'm excited for that, but I hope we might see other scenery, and they still might not make the world feel big. Like that's the other thing, and maybe I feel like they set it up to do world building, right? I mean, there's huge like power politics at play, and it's like right now it's feeling very small. Like it's Boy Genius, and he's got his kids, like these kids going and doing missions. Right, like I want to feel like these are nation-state corporations vying for, supremacy over the solar system.
I will say, I don't think we're getting, because the whole city and everything is on one island. We're not getting off that island, mostly for continuity reasons, because you can't have it out here that these aliens were here all the time, because then the later movies make no sense. So yeah, I think everything's going to be contained to that island. But as long as he walks around and he's in the city and the jungle and stuff.
I want to see him walk around.
The only time the alien was ever on Earth was the freaking temple in Antarctica, and then it was in like a hunting store in Colorado, and I'm like, this is lame.
I don't even know how I couldn't even see in that movie, so I don't know where he is. It actually, we bring up a good point, which is, for most shows, by the end of the second episode, you're like, I see where this is going. Like, I get the general idea. For this show, I have no idea what the rest of the story is going to be. Like, is it going to just be we're trying to survive this alien? Are they going to... I mean, they had that really cool contraption the cyborg used to catch the alien. So they're going to bring it in and start doing all kinds of experiments. I know, Daniel, you theorized about that one smart kid trying to get an alien hybrid body. Like, where are we going with this? I mean, I know Noah Hawley is very interested in those corporate espionage and all that politics, so I bet we're going to see more of that. But it's just interesting to finish episode 2. We've now seen 25% of the season, and I really am not sure what the overall arc is going to be or where we're heading, which is exciting. It's cool.
Yeah. I do want to see them get a little weird. Like, getting back to the comics, there is one comic where apparently the royal jelly in the queen's egg sac has hallucinogenic properties, and people take it like a drug, but it also makes them kind of psychic and connected with the alien and drives them all insane. I want to see stuff like that hasn't really been explored outside of the comics, because they get wild, some of those books.
I mean, Noah Hawley definitely has it in him, like based on what I remember seeing from Legion. He could do that kind of stuff. I will say, if he does it, I doubt it'll be because he read it in one of the comics. Based on all the interviews, this might be painting unfairly, but I sense a tad bit of elitism where he's like, the first 2 are great. I have no interest in the rest of the franchise. Don't talk to me about continuity. Maybe that's unfair, but I don't know if that specific thing will happen. But Hawley definitely has it in him to go in that sort of direction.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure everyone really, really likes the show, and there's no assholes maybe named Adam who are in the comment section complaining about it. And if he was, I wouldn't know, because I don't read things that aren't super chat skills. So,
well, yeah,
I'm pretty sure everyone's on board.
In space, no one can hear you whine unless it's a super chat. that will puncture the space-time continuum, and we'll hear it all the way down here on Earth.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Romulus was way too safe for me. That was the Force Awakens of alien movies for me. So, but I also don't want to get it stupid like Prometheus and Covenant. I'm like, no, give me what I like and play around with that a little bit. Don't go too far off the deep end. Where now
I like Prometheus.
Well, it's just when
the
movie
typeface
starts,
was
the
great.
font was just
when they had holograms and stuff, and I'm like, that can't exist. No, Dan, when they had the space jockey, which is what I will call it, head, and they went, it's a helmet, and then they showed a bald guy. That was my midi-chlorian moment, where I'm like, oh, you've ruined everything I loved about this series and destroyed the mystery of it. I'm like, oh, that thing in the chair was just a big bald guy? I'm like, that's like saying the Force is just bacteria. You've killed it for me.
You know, it's so funny because I went on, I did a retrospective where I reviewed every Alien movie. And for the Prometheus review, I am not a fan of that movie. There were things I liked about it, but I don't criticize it for that element, because the way I look at it is we had that mystery for 40 years of what's in the space jockey. Or we didn't think there was anything in there, but what is the space jockey? And I'm just like, in my mind, the xenomorph at this point has been so overexposed in so many sequels, AVP movies, pop culture. So at this point, there isn't an enigma that you can remove. The enigma is already gone. So I figure, you know what? Take this concept, this unknown fear we no longer have, and sacrifice it for a new story. Now, unfortunately, that new story wasn't good, and that's why I criticize it. Then someone in the comments is like, you're just like everybody else. You say it ruins the mystery. There was no mystery. And I'm like, that's the opposite of what I said. In space, no one can hear hypocrisy. That guy is silent now. But I did like an Alien Covenant. Again, bad movie, but I like the space Frankenstein concept, all the weird stuff. So I want to see more of that weird stuff in this show. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Dan, you felt like we weren't paying enough attention to you?
It's getting late. I can't have all this blue light in my eyes.
Oh, I thought you were about to like enter the Matrix or something there.
If he takes those glasses off, lasers are going to shoot out of his eyes.
And also, you weren't paying enough attention to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to reference something from the Alien comics? We'll all wait and listen.
I read a few of the comics. Remember, Gil, that video we made?
You watched the video I made about a few of the comics.
No, I read the comics that you made those videos about. I made the thumbnails for those YouTube videos.
That's true.
You know how much time I spent staring at the engineer's face?
Yeah,
trying to find good images of the engineers.
Oh, right. I'm hearing something. I'm like Wendy. I'm like, what is that sound? I hear something. It's a super chat.
Oh,
well, let me hold on. Actually, unlike Hack the Movies, I'm going to screen super chat. So before I pull it on the screen, Tony, is this appropriate? What do you think?
Yeah, my former friend Vito, he tried to start a review show recently, and only one person's mic was on, and they were boring, and it didn't get a single positive comment. So now he's going into all his former friends' streams and trying to say it's bad, and I guess this is a fan of his, or someone who wants us to get back together. He says, why can't we all be friends with Vito? Sorry that the only super chat we got was an inside joke.
I liked the starting. You know, where it's like different shots of the show, and then like the alien logo slowly appears. All right, well, I feel like we've said a lot. I feel like we're starting to wind down. I'm running out of things to talk about, but I want to mention one more thing. I felt like when they started the first episode, they did such a good job of recapturing the aesthetic of the original Alien movies. Almost too good a job, because then when they stray to a different tone, I'm like, sometimes the show feels like it's right out of Alien, and then other times it feels like something different. And like you'll have that the horns like from the soundtrack will show up, and I'm like, this sounds like Alien.
Yeah,
it might have even been pulled from the soundtrack. I haven't decided yet if I like the balance. Like, is it adding up to this weird new flavor, or is it this odd thing where sometimes it's Alien, sometimes it's this other aesthetic that doesn't really match up? I haven't decided yet. That's the kind of thing that's hard to judge, you know, when you just watch the episode, 2 hours ago.
I did like that the opening. It's just like, well, this just feels like the beginning of Alien, and then during the credits, it's like, here's all this shit. It came out of a guy. They shot it a bunch of times. Everyone's dead, and then it just skips to the end of what would have been just a regular Alien movie. They're like, yeah, and everything goes really, really bad. You know what's gonna happen. Let's just get to Earth. Let's get.
Yeah,
to Earth.
I did find that funny. It's like as they're, I think, going into cryosleep, it just starts cutting in these quick images of a battle that's ahead of them, and they're kind of like, look, we're not even pretending. They're all going to die. That's not the thing you're supposed to be worried about. You should be worried about what happens when this stuff crashes to Earth. These guys don't get too attached.
Yeah. I really, really appreciated that. Yeah, I'm just not really sure where it's going to go, but I'm interested to see. Do you think they're going to work in more stuff from the current films? Do you think the android's eyes are going to go back? We'll see a logo at some point. You think they're going to set up for a Predator? You think we're going to get any Predator stuff in this?
Oh my God. I remember when the trailer came out, there's like 1 second where you hear a click noise, and everyone's like, that's a Predator noise. And I'm like, it's not a Predator noise. If you read one interview with Noah Hawley, he like barely wants to take anything from the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
Why is he going to reach into the Predator franchise?
I think they are gearing up for another Alien vs. Predator, and I would just like one. I'm not even asking for good. I'm asking for okay. I would just like one okay.
I think you should set your bar. My bar for Batman v Superman when that was coming out, I knew I wasn't going to like it, but I was like, I want a scene. I want one good scene. And I got one. Batman in the warehouse. Great scene. That's all I wanted. It's all I expected. But we've talked about this. I think we've got a couple of good filmmakers in the Alien and Predator world right now. Dan Trachtenberg and Fede Alvarez.
Yeah.
I think if they do an Alien versus Predator, it'll at least be, it's going to have a good scene or two, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 good scenes.
Yeah. I like that we had a couple safe reboots in these franchises, and now with Badlands and this show, it feels like they're like, all right, let's get a little experimental and weird with it.
Yeah,
hopefully not too much.
So experimental and weird that a few months after a movie comes out, you can just say, new ending.
You just add a whole new ending to
Schwarzenegger's there now. Like, wait, we can do that? If I'm unhappy with any of this stream, check back tomorrow. I'm going to be inserting some little changes, cut out all that typeface talk, all the references back to it.
Just remove me.
We did we can wrap up after this, but in the early days of One Take, Alun and I shot a podcast where the two of us were discussing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he was unhappy with his performance, so he's like, I think it'll work if we just cut me out. And then so it's me doing this review, but every once in a while I just stop and like cut to another sentence and clearly respond to someone who isn't there. I'm like, this clearly doesn't work.
I once did a commentary track with Mint, and I totally forgot to record on my end. It was before StreamYard records both people. Totally forgot to record on my end, but she recorded on her end, and I almost was like, you should just release the track on your Patreon, so it's just you saying random things and responding to questions and stuff.
See, I'm proud to say I deemed what we recorded unreleasable, and I reshot it. But over
she
at
also
movies,
did.
Whatever it is, let it fly. Just throw it out there.
Luckily, she was smart enough to be like, no, that's a terrible idea. I'm not doing that.
Okay, guys. Is there anything we didn't mention that you wanted to bring up from either episode or just how you're feeling about the series overall?
No, I think I covered everything I wanted to say. It's going to be hard. I'll probably rewatch it again before the next episode, and maybe next time we come back, I'll think of some other stuff. But no, I think I covered everything I wanted to say.
I'm excited to see where it goes, and you gave me a positive spin that I'm going to use next time. Next time I see the Boy Genius, I'm going to think of him as an anime character. And I actually think that will make him more tolerable. And in fact, maybe I'll even then enjoy his performance.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's great.
Sorry. Real quick. We have eggs. Is there a queen? Do you think we're getting a queen? Or do they just pick up some eggs? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Okay.
We are long overdue for a big queen action scene. It's been a long time.
I don't even know. I was like, let me think. I don't even know what I'm going to think about. Like, what am I going to look at in the show to indicate like whether or not a queen is going to show up? Maybe. That would be cool. I mean, Noah Hawley thinks this movie takes place like concurrent to Aliens. So maybe. Okay. With that, this has been fun. Logistically, So we're going to do these live streams every week right after the episodes air. We may do a couple bonus streams, maybe like midway through the season where we kind of take stock of where we're at, maybe at the end of the season where we can look back on the season as a whole. I'm not going to commit to that, but we might do that. But we'll definitely commit to the weekly streams that'll come on right after the episodes. This one was later because it was a 2-episode premiere, but typically the show should come out at 8 o'clock. So I would anticipate us going live around like 9:15, 9:20.
Yeah. And next time we'll say at the top of the show to leave super chats and not toward the end because we totally messed that up.
I know, and
So
I had
going
that
forward.
great... Yeah. I had that great line about how in space nobody can hear you unless it's a super chat. I thought of that in the shower this morning, and I was like, oh, that's so good. Babe, I got to tell you something. This is great.
You walk out of the shower wet, the shower's still on.
You think Tony
I'll
would think
remember-
it's funny?
Yeah, and she probably said, yeah, make sure to do it at the beginning of the show and not at the end. Like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
So we can all tell ourselves that's why we didn't get super chats tonight.
That's how I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm like, yep, it was all Gil's fault. That's how...
All right. We hope you enjoyed this simulcast on both One Take and Hack the Movies. Broke the internet. This is bigger than Oreo and Reese's. Oh, and I can promise that next week I'll report back on how it tastes. What's better, the Reese's flavored Oreos or the Oreo flavored Reese's? The hybrid, if you will. So I'll report back on that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Goodbye, everyone.